Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. 3 hours from now, President Trump will give his first address to a joint session of Congress. The theme, the renewal of the American spirit. The president, just 44% approval rating as we speak, the lowest of any president at the beginning of his first term. Let's get a live check here. Go to Washington right now with Lana Zock. Lana joins us.
Good evening. The president hasn't even begun his speech yet, and already he's facing some pushback based off of things that we anticipate might be in it, even from members of his own party. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell saying that he would not support the president's budget if it led to drastic cuts at the State Department. For the first time in 8 years, a Republican president will address Congress. The tremendous potential not lost on the leadership of the Republican-led Senate and House chambers.
We are excited to welcome President Trump to the Capitol tonight, and we expect him to deliver a bold, optimistic message to the American people.
But there are questions about how unified the Grand Old Party is heading into this speech. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham delivering the president a pre-speech message: don't value expediency over history.
Mr. President, stick to your guns. We're going to be judged by what we do, not how quickly we do it.
While other Republicans are questioning how President Trump intends to pay for his proposals, particularly the replacement for Obamacare.
Coming in as a Republican president with a net tax increase and a federal new entitlement program, right, that's your first big move, and then we got to do tax reform after that in the Republican conference. Good luck.
President Trump expected to ask Congress to make major cuts to things like foreign aid and the Environmental Protection Agency. Those funds are being redirected to military spending, boosting it by 10%. But on top of that, the president has called for $1 trillion investment in infrastructure and a massive border wall. Congress has not yet been presented with details on how that will be funded. Those issues are a likely focus of the Democrats' response. So-called dreamer and immigration activist Astrid Silva will join former Kentucky Governor Steve Beshear in giving the Democratic response. For his part, the president sees this as an opportunity to persuade not only Congress, but also the American people. Asked earlier how he would rate his new administration, he said an A+ for effort, but a C in terms of messaging. Reporting live from the nation's capital, Lana Zock, ABC News. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Lana. And we'll be heading back to D.C. shortly. Our own Andrew Whitman's on the ground talking to lawmakers from our region throughout the day, so we'll be hearing from him. But let's bring in our panel right now. Former Democratic New York Congressman from Long Island, Tim Bishop, representing the eastern portion. Dominic Cardick, political journalist, author, and we're also joined by former Republican New York Congressman Bob Turner, who represented part of Brooklyn and Queens. Guys, thank you very much here. Now, a lot to unpack, but before we can get into what we think we can hear, the strategies we want, if I told you the first month or so would have been the way it was, even after the crazy campaign we saw, would you have ever believed me?
Probably not. No. He's trying to jam an awful lot into a very short period of time. I think a reasonable question is how much of this is substance and how much of it is fluff. I mean, a lot of the executive orders, when you drill down on them, they don't really say or do a lot, but they give the impression of moving forward and the impression of action. But there's no question this has been, he's trying to live up to the promises he made during the campaign. He made a lot of them, and he's trying to tick them off one by one.
You know, he promised disruption, and he certainly delivered on that. But just even today, and we'll unpack the detail of it, it seems that on the fly, whether it's, you know, the tone that he's going to use or how he's pivoting on immigration, or people don't know where he's coming or going to, and especially within Republican circles, there's real confusion. I would even say in some circles concern right now. Where are we going here? Fair?
No.
Okay.
I find most of the concern and the hand-wringing hysteria on the part of the pundits and the Democrats.
Well, let me tell you, today you had the Senate Majority Leader and you had the House Speaker. Nobody's going to confuse them with pundits or Democrats saying this thing's either DOA when it gets here, or wait a second, how are you going to pay for all that? That's not exactly wrapping their arms around the president.
I think Trump is President Trump is an excellent negotiator, and he puts it up here, and we're going to see where it winds up. I think everything he does is with the end game in mind, the negotiation tactics.
So you're saying there's a method to the madness here?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
And I think we saw that before.
Oh, you certainly surprised us with the election, no doubt to
indeed.
that. Dominic, last time the president delivered a speech here of note that was scripted, we heard from a tonal standpoint about American carnage. Now, all day today, they've been messaging and putting out here that this is going to be a unifying, uplifting speech. A, do you buy it? And B, do you think it's because all the division we've seen here in the last month, they're seeing their own numbers here and they're saying we got to do something different? What do you think?
I buy it based on if he sticks to the script, it'll be a positive tone as compared to his inauguration. But this president, as we all know at this table, you talk about it every night, Richard, he has a tendency to go off script. And so when he's there tonight with Democrats, Republicans, and everybody's there and everybody has their human props, God only knows what he may do. If he feels that he's going to go with it. I would differ with my friend, the good congressman. Many things he does is scripted. Not everything. Sometimes he flies by the seat of his pants, and sometimes he just doesn't know, and he'll just go with it at the moment. But what we're hearing, if you listen between the lines here, Republicans are going to stand by him. Period. End of story.
Well, to that end, let me ask you about the audience tonight. Okay, the audience is either the American public, traditionally, or it's the people in the room, and more specifically narrowed it down to Republicans. I did some back-of-the-envelope math today. The president wants to cut taxes, promised he'd do that in a big way. He wants to do infrastructure, that's trillion with a T. He also, by the way, wants to ramp up funding for the military. He also wants to protect entitlements like Social Security, Medicare, and put on top of that, build a wall and all the rest of the stuff. How are you going to pay for all that? And isn't the Republicans the pay-go party?
Well, Republicans are the pay-go party. The Republicans are the party of the deficit hawks. The Republicans are the party that's passed a budget the last several years in the House that balances in 10 years. That is the gold standard, to have a budget that balances in 10 years. Leave aside all the value judgments, whether maintaining Social Security as it is a good idea or a bad idea. Leave aside all those value judgments. Just do math. The arithmetic just doesn't work. Just take the military buildup. He wants to increase military spending by $54 billion. He wants to correspondingly cut domestic discretionary spending by $54 billion. On the face of it, you might say, okay, that sounds reasonable. I don't think it is, but some might say it is. But then when you unpack what domestic discretionary is, in domestic discretionary, non-defense, is about $55 or $60 billion for federal law enforcement. Does anyone think we're going to cut that? I don't. In the same category is about $55 or $60 billion worth of veterans health care. Do we think we're going to cut that? So all of a sudden you're now dealing with $450 billion that you're going to cut $54 billion out of, as opposed to $600 billion that you're going to cut $54 billion out of. That's pretty hard, and that's going to inflict an enormous amount of pain. And whether or not his Republican colleagues in the House are going to say, you know what, I'm up for election in 18 months, I'm willing to buy off this much controversy and this much pain. It's going to be interesting to see who sticks with him and who doesn't.
You know, when you say, all right, it's an executive order about streams, okay. But when they're cutting the EPA and the food safety and stuff like that, people say, whoa, I want to know what I'm eating in the supermarket here, and I don't want to give a complete pass to everybody when they're checking car standards or whatever else. And the money's not even there to find the $54 billion. My point is, you worked with these guys. You know what Paul Ryan ate for breakfast every day in terms of it was totally reforming Social Security, changing Medicare and everything else. The president already signaled, that's off the table, guys. We're not touching entitlements. It's got to be freaking out rank and file Republicans how they're going to do the math here to pay for all this stuff.
Well, the president may put the budget together, but it will originate in the House. So I think Mr. Ryan has a lot more to say. And the negotiation will begin.
Yep.
To leave entitlements off the table is going to be very difficult.
It is, right?
And certainly there's reforms there that are not quite cuts, but there's only so much you can do in that.
I find it inconceivable that a budget will leave the House that doesn't have entitlement cuts. Every single budget resolution since 2011, first with Paul Ryan was the author, then Tom Price was the author, every single one has privatized Medicare, has done a block grant for Medicaid, and has toyed with Social Security. And I just don't see them saying, oh, Mr. President, you want to leave those alone? Okay, fine, we'll leave them alone. I just don't see that happening.
And it's funny, on the day of, I know it's not a State of the Union, but let's call it, the conversations, the negotiations really haven't even taken place yet. It's almost like they're going to be finding out like when we are, which is something I'm not used to seeing. All right, coming up next, Andrew Whitman is live from the Capitol, where he has been speaking to lawmakers from both sides of the aisle all day. We'll check in with him after this.